in the studio. So we will enter into our discussion with Mr. Boynes. But before we do that, Big Catch Gill, THA owned Capital of Paradise. About they spend $1.8 million to repair. 1.8 million. Well, it's working now. Yes. They caught 7,945 pounds of yellowfish tuna. And they were able to sell it for 50,000 US. Now, yesterday when I was checking out this particular issue, you have yellowfin tuna and you have yellowfin tuna high grade. Now, the high grade one you get 25 to 30 US. The regular one you just get 8 to 15 US per pound. So it looked as if the Tobago House of Assembly, whoever sold it, looked like they accepted maybe less than $8 a pound. Now on the international market, it's 8 to 15 US per pound. 7,900, call it 8,000, multiplied by 8 is 64. So it looked like somebody in the fishing boat collect 15,000 US for themselves. So well, I don't have a clue. Yeah, and I don't know. Well, again, all of these, when Fali Chavez could have gone and talk about the road. Who, Watson? Dr. Watson? That's your partner. Augustine, you know, what do call kettle black is what they say. The man want accountability and all that kind of thing, you know, but when time comes for this kind of thing, I'm sure if I asked him, he'd stutter like when I asked him today, who is the audit company? He stuttered, but he get caught off guard. Well, I told you all who that was already, you know. And I said to myself, well, how come you can't remember? But here's the, yeah. Well, that's the life. Anyhow, we are going to join well, you know in the studio what has happened. So, have no fear. Mr. Boynes, good morning.
Good morning to you, Robert. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. It's a pleasure to be here.
Very well, man. It looked like you had a good weekend, boy.
Yes. Things are progressing.
I want to tell you something, Ruby. If you see how young you looking this morning, it looked like this kind of work. Like how I show you? What I'm going to do? Thief a camera from those 2,000 cameras you go on putting up for 80 million. You want me to thief one of them and bring it to studio? Yeah, so Ruby is just saying good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Ruby.
Yeah. All right. So Ruby, we're going to get into our discussion here. So hold your thoughts. It is again a pleasure for us to have Ronald Boynes in the studio this morning. This is the lead up to your decisions as the people outside there who are members of the political organization, the PNM, that is going to go to the polls for 3 days. And I have to emphasize that because somehow or the other, in the United States of America, they just had one mammoth election. Okay, they haven't had any decisions in some constituencies or in some areas because some of the ballot boxes wasn't checked. But we're talking about millions of votes. In Trinidad and Tobago, if the PNM bring out more than 20,000, Roger and I have a little side wager on that. That it wouldn't be more than that. If it's more than that, boy, that day that happened, rain will fall in Trinidad and Tobago till you and I will all be flooded out, if that ever happened. But I hope you, the PNM people, come out and really vote. Because in 100,000 members, and the same thing for the UNCA, they have 100,000 members, but only some 14,000 or 15,000 came out. And the number of people that are showing interest in these internal elections is diminishing. It started off at a very high level, and then it reduced and it reduced and it reduced. And we don't even know, you and I don't even know what number it will be at. It seems to me that this 3-day election is maybe some kind of arrangement, and I know that one of the other candidates had shared their concern about it, and I'm hoping that the government, and I'll be writing the EBC myself, talking to them about making sure that we have plastic boxes, if you want to call it that, see-through ballot boxes for the next election in 2025, or whenever it comes. Because I think it is unfair as a citizen to walk into a booth, look at a box that is metal, and don't even know if it has 200 votes inside it, or 200 ballot papers. I believe when you go, we look at the rest of the world, we look at the Europeans, and I mean, that's the land that we came from, or the training that we got. Don't tell me the good things they have, we don't follow. That seems to be rather strange. But bring us up to speed, Ronald. Where are you now? I mean, the last time I see the rival team is outside there almost every other day. They was in St. Joseph, they entered into, they're going some other place again tonight. So how are you making out with all of this? I mean, because we're not hearing anything about where you going. So where's the plan? I mean, the last time you had to go flood stop you. So are you now catching back up?
Well, Robert, the fact of the matter is that we are campaigning heavily on the ground, as it were. We are visiting communities. On Saturday, we were in Arima in Boynes, 5 Rivers. We were in that general vicinity. We visited many communities and touching base with the ordinary members. And on Saturday, we were in Manzanilla. On Sunday, rather, we were in Manzanilla, again, touching base with our key activists. Now, it is one point I wish to make. Clearly, the side represented by the incumbents, many of whom are government ministers,
right,
is a well-resourced side. Right? That is a very practical matter. Everybody's red t-shirts seem to be spanking new, and all the well for that. But at the end of,
including ding dongs.
Well,
as a matter of fact, when ding dong had, he said, I didn't know they had free t-shirt here. And I said to myself, well, what kind of statement you making here? You're giving people the impression that people give you a t-shirt for you to come out. It's the normal thing.
Anyway, right. So the fact of the matter is that, Robert, we are doing what we need to do, which is really to touch base with the members. And remember, our campaign, and why we have jumped in, is the disenfranchisement, the disrespect, and the disregard of our members.
Right.
So those people that we are speaking to, you may not find them in these high glossy events, right, that are properly televised and everybody with a clipped accent because things nice with them.
Right. I like that clipped accent.
Yes, so we are speaking to the membership. Those people are giving their blood, sweat, and tears to our great party. Right. That's who we are reaching out to. And in the fullness of time, as I said, our campaign will become more high profile, of course. But for now, we are really connecting,
right,
and solidifying our message on the ground.
I know that when you started to talk, you had said that you were going to deal with some fundamentals as to what the campaign, what was your kind of rationale.
Yeah.
And we haven't heard yet. I mean, everybody, you know, the leadership is how they call it. I think it's the leadership. That's the incumbent, right? That's how they promoted themselves, as the leadership.
Yes, so service leaders.
Service leaders. Yes. And they come up with a logo and whatever, right? Now, the thing is that on some of the platforms, there's a recurrence of a certain number of people. While there are 16 or whatever number of posts, quite a number of those other people who are running, I don't think the country is hearing from them. Now, in your case, which is what I like about what you have done, you have taken a unitary position. This is a singular position, because under the party constitution, I think everybody has a right to fight or go or put themselves up for.
Of course, once you're a financial member.
Well, once you're a member, because as you had said, financial doesn't make no difference at this stage.
Right, well, for participating in the election, where you're contesting a seat, you need to be financial. But to vote.
Oh, I understand it. I understand the differentiation.
Right, but to vote, non-financial members could vote once you are a registered member of the party.
I hear you. Okay. And all of these systems are, from what you see, you feel now as we're getting into the crux of the matter, have they addressed some of the concerns that you have shared about this list? Because you know both parties are the same story.
And that is sad. Well, first of all, let me address the first question that you asked, which is the whole issue of leadership.
Right.
And why I'm contesting. I am contesting again because of what we see as the disrespect, disregard for party members, their views. We see a real lack of sensitivity to what is happening in the party and by extension the country as a whole.
Right.
I heard you referencing earlier the unfortunate circumstance of this special reserve police officer being killed in Lekoto. These things are heart wrenching.
Yeah.
And you know, there is, as I always like to say, there is real wisdom among our grassroots people in the wisdom in the marketplace as a whole. And the structure of our party has always been that our foundation members live in communities where the polling areas are, so that you can get the views, get the feedback, and that these things convert into policy. Again, some of these communities, what are the job prospects? Are enough resources? And I just ask this question rhetorically, but I know what the answer is. Are enough resources going into creating jobs, opportunities in these areas? Are we going to look at something to get these youths off the street to upgrade our programs that have been there before? The CCC, MyLad, MyPad, all of these programs, upgrade them, and then even possibly look at some kind of compulsory program for youths that are at risk. Because some of these, and we see all this happening in our schools, and sometimes even in our better schools, so-called better schools, right? Meaning that those schools that traditionally have not had a disciplinary problem, but we see it emerging now almost across the board. Is it time to say, well, okay, it's like some of these parents, is it that you cannot control these children? In France, Macron in 2016 came into power on the basis that 16 years old and more, once you're not involved in an educational program, you're going into a compulsory national service program that will teach you obvious patriotism, will give you life skills, and make you understand what it means to be a citizen of that country. Is it time that we begin to look at that for our young people here, particularly those young people that are not in any focused academic or vocational program? These are some of the things that we need to do, because I know that, as I mentioned this program before, that in the prior election in Laventille, there was a call by some of the elders there to look at this whole program of national service and look at different programs that is operating in other countries. So I just threw that out as one possible thing that members and the community are seeing that obviously is not being addressed.
Well, I mean, I had a communication with the Minister of Education over this weekend, based on the fight that took place in Tranquility, and how unfortunate that the person who they rebelled against or threw down on the ground is the former President, Prime Minister Arthur Napoleon Robinson's daughter. Can you imagine the level of disrespect, if you want to call it that, coming out of these young people? And then there was another one where a young man in a classroom got on very bad. I don't know the details, what the teacher told him, because we only caught it at a point of where it was sent out. But the reality is that the indiscipline in the schools have been allowed to fester for way too long.
Yeah.
And now they are blaming that because corporal punishment is no longer part of the mandate of the schools, these children have gotten worse. I'm not hearing anybody talking about the role of parents.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing anybody talking about programs that deals with this parental requirement. I mean, it can't just make a child. It's all well and good to go and pack tea, as they say, and lie down in the bed and enjoy yourself, and then at the end of the day, 9 months down the road, you bring a little human being into the world, and where is now the training for that 17-year-old? We're not hearing anything about the issues of this, what you call statutory rape matters, where thousands of young women have been impregnated and no men have been held responsible. I didn't know all of them was Virgin Marys. I didn't know that. And when we look at this system, if we are not going to take a course of action, and I mean, this is not something you could do now, because as you pointed out, first you have to get to the position of being in charge before you could, because we go back to your words. If you said you came from the ground and you explain that to the upper echelons, and they say, listen, we need to do something like this, because this thing you're talking about here, about service, community service, or national service.
Well, other countries that have developed.
I hearing Heinz and others talking about that for 25 years. I mean, my youngest son is 38. So imagine 25. For 13 of those years, nothing has happened, so to speak. So I am happy to hear that that's your intention, but then you have to be a Lee Kuan Yew in order to be able to make that work. Because when you get inside of there, the other 14 or 15 people, we don't agree with you, we don't agree with you, and we're living in a democracy.
Well, you know, this is what I like about democracy and the debate and the force of ideas. And once the idea whose time has come, it's important to mobilize the people behind your ideas in whatever way you do it. Back to the community, throw the ideas out there, get feedback. When we did that, keep referring to the strategy that I used for the Granny Development Plan. It wasn't a plan that we hatched in the corporation's office. We put it out there, we went to all communities, we presented at all high schools, we got feedback, and we incorporated all the feedback we got in the eventual plan which we submitted to the government and the cabinet of the day for ratification. So it's the same thing that will apply. The thing is, Robert, that we face what you could consider an existential threat, a threat to our very existence as a society. The economy will be under threat with this crime. This thing is rampant. Anybody at any time, it seems, could be impacted.
Of course.
Right? So this is not that we could play with and play games with. And you know, this is the concern that is happening now.
So from the ground, from where you have gone, I know that you have always, since we started speaking, you have made the point that a major issue is that the individuals, the people, the members of the party have had this disenfranchising in that they will want to, or they contribute, and when they contribute, it falls on deaf ears. In a lot of cases, maybe in certain cases, depending on where you sit in the totem pole of the politics, it gets listened to. Yeah. But the main people, which are the people that support the political institution, the six-day-old institution, a number of those, is that the same cry across each? You have found no constituent that is saying, boy, we're happy with what's going on, we're not disappointed, the man can't do no better. Are you not hearing some of these people come to you and say, Ronald, you know, we're saying there, you know, it's sounding okay, you know, but we're happy with how things are. Are you hearing people saying that?
Well, you know, there are people who, and we have to understand that in any democracy, there'll be different views. Based on my experience, is an overwhelming minority of people who are saying that. And even those people who are saying, well, you know, they will continue to support the incumbent, they themselves are expressing real concern about the way things are going. And this is the discussion with them. A few of them who started off that way telling me, well, they will support incumbent. After we have had a thorough discussion with them about their rights as a party member, their rights to be listened to, their rights to have their views respected, the rights that resources are not only for a certain category of persons who some of them come belatedly into the party, parachute into the party, or whatnot, that they will obtain the highest position in the party, but that these things could operate for you at the ground level of the party. Let your voice be heard. And as we begin to explain that to people, Robert, a lot of people are thinking twice, and in some instances have decided to support my candidacy to be the next political leader of the party.
We were talking earlier and you dealt with one issue. What about your views as to the selection of the incumbent? Because they're only allowing certain people to speak. I mean, you know, everybody is to be elected, how do you make a decision if you're going to elect somebody, but the person hasn't even communicated with you? They just come in on the coattail of Keith, in simple. Because, you know, whether it's Keith or Kamala, same, you know. Because this incumbency situation have a kind of, what do you call it, boy? Automation. From the time you enter and you go in the polling booth, every name on the key, tick, 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 tick,
Well,
tick.
to be honest, Robert, I don't think that will happen on this occasion. I think people are a lot more discerning. Because slate has not worked. We had a unified slate in 2014 when we first introduced one man, one vote. In 2018 was the same thing, and it has not worked, which is why we are here where we are today, with problems both in the party and by extension the nation of Trinidad and Tobago. So, and as I move around, this is my experience touching base with folks throughout all the communities of our blessed Twin Island Republic. I'm getting the sense that they are being more discerning and more selective in people who they feel can get the job done and who will represent their interests and who will have created a progressive agenda really for the party and by extension the nation.
So one of the things you are anticipating as a sort of datum is that when this election is finished, there will be a choice of varied people being put into the position and not a follow the leader.
Yes, I genuinely believe that the membership will get it right. They have known, as I said before, that this blind slate, does not work. I mean, PNM is a party, a mature party, and they will give you a chance. So the chances have been given in 2014 and 2018, and they have seen for their own eyes and know in their hearts and in their mind that this blind slating do work. Right, it has us on the precipice of chaos, as it were.
When you look back, if tomorrow you could give me some guideline on this, when you look back at the voting in 2018, are there areas, like in the Kamla Pasal Bisesa arrangement, you can know Separia, which is her zone. If the people in Digo Martin West was to continue to give their very strong support to the MP for the area, would you be disappointed?
Well, Robert, I would respect their views. My obligation is to convey what I think, what are the plans, programs, and policies I have for our great party, and what will make our party certainly more attractive to the national electorate. And to convey to the party too that, look at what has happened in Tobago. Prior to that, we lost the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation,
but they won the seat.
I'm sorry.
But they won the seat.
Yeah, well, the electoral boundaries are different. You remember at one point, while my brother was the MP for the electoral boundaries are different. But the point is that even when you look at the votes that could be attributed to the Togo Sangre Grande seat in the national elections are diminishing. So we have to, as a party, look at those issues, because as I said before, the purpose of a party is to win elections so that it could improve the lives of the people. So if you're not in power and if you do not win an election, that or your best laid plans would have to be delayed, or you would be, it would be, as I said, whistling in the wind or putting forward your policies. So the point I'm making, Robert, is that in order for us to go forward and to win, there needs to be a wind of change in the party. A fresh realization that we can't continue to do business as usual, to ignore the members and by extension ignore the community. And then when you're under pressure, whether it be into the elections or otherwise, then we start to see a shift. This shift in favor of the benefits to the nation has to be continuous. It has to be a hard working, a foundation that is laid, where we enact plans and policies to continuously benefit our nation, with the foundation being, of course, our party.
An important ingredient that has to be addressed, Ronald, as you look towards the future, and we'll deal with that maybe later on in this week, is how does a citizen of this country brand themselves? A lot of people who are dark-skinned brand themselves as Africans. A lot of people who are brown-skinned brand themselves as Indians. But citizenship is about the country that you were born in. If you were born in the United States of America, they call you an American. We have put some handles to that with recent time. I'm an African American, I'm an Asian American. But in the end, you're an American. Or if you're Guyanese, Bajan, Jamaican, wherever in the Caribbean your acronym is according to that country. In this country, we continue along this very destructive line that we continue maintaining this African Indian sort of attribute. And it has, like the politics, hasn't done any good for the country. We look at the floods that just took place and we hear people, we look at the roads that have been damaged and we hear people talking now, well, you know, it's only because it's a UNC area, they care about we and and people have that kind of sense of feeling. Do you think that somehow or the other we need to come, like you say, a shift, a continuous shift? Do you think we need to start making sure people understand that they're Trinbagonian first before they're African or Indian?
Well, Robert, this is how I see it. I think it is perfectly okay for an individual to feel pride in their background, in their ethnicity, to feel a level, because that is who you are. As the British Prime Minister said, Mr. Sunak, that he's a Hindu from a particular background, so he's proud in terms of his religious background and all of that. But obviously we belong to a secular state. That's the start with. So in terms of religion, we belong to a secular state. As I see it, we all belong, as I had mentioned this in an earlier program, to Mother Trinidad and Tobago. So even though we come from the different areas throughout the globe, we are melting pot here, where we belong to Mother Trinidad and Tobago. And to my mind, the whole politics of division is sometimes introduced as a mechanism really to divide. The whole politics of race and this is something. I'm not casting aspersions to anyone in particular, but just saying this is my observation as a citizen. That sometimes this whole issue, and the thing about it is a convenient handle. Whereas if we enact the policies, one of which I'd mentioned before is this meaningful decentralization, where resources could be spread across the needs of all 40 municipalities in our country, then this whole issue of race would recede and not be at the forefront. Whereas there's a distribution of the resources of the country through a well-organized program of decentralization of local government and empowerment to communities. So that is.
Well, I'm hearing you. I mean, I understand what you say. I understand that there is religious persuasions that belongs to certain backgrounds of people. It doesn't change the fact that your citizenship is controlled or is guided by the principle of where you were born. And we were not born in India, and we were not born in Africa. So I don't understand why we run away from the reality of controlling our position. And it's a big problem even with Barack Obama, that seems that as intellectually smart as he is, he still does not understand the difference between ethnicity and race. And it's a big problem we have in this country, that we continue to always talk about racialism, racial, without even understanding that it's better you go live in South Africa in order to understand what that is. Or possibly you have to go and live by North Korea, because somebody sent around something on the weekend about 14 things you can't do in North Korea. So, we have to get very mindful of what we need to fix in order to fix. Because if we leave some of those things unresolved, going forward will be an unresolved position. People have to come to the understanding this is my country. I'm a Trinbagonian first, and I could be anything else after. I'm proud of my heritage, but I'm a Trini to the bone, as they say, or a Trinbagonian to the bone.
No, well, Robert, so, that absolutely is the point that I endeavor to make, and and that I think is important. At the end of the day, wherever we come from, that is fine. Our ethnic heritage, or the food, the culture, the music, the things we enjoy, all that is perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, we are in this place, Mother Trinidad and Tobago, together, and that is why it's important to get it right. to get the way that we organize ourselves and our communities and our system of governance right. And that's the starting point for me.
Well, it is a pleasure speaking with you again today. We look forward to being here tomorrow. Is there a place you're going later on today? You want people to know?
Well, we will be in the east. We're heading up to Togo.
You're going your hometown, boy. You going home?
Yes.
Back to the base?
Right, so tomorrow we'll be in Baratari area. Of course, tomorrow as well we attend the funeral of Keisha Bostic, the young lady who was unfortunately murdered in the driveway of her home. So we go down to San Fernando to lend that support. And so that is tomorrow as well. And the following day we are in Maruga.
Okay, well, some very strong areas. I mean, that Toku area is a strong area. It has a lot of PNM support on there. I don't know about San Fernando. I mean, I think it's balanced when you look at the situation. And Maruga, well, you guys don't have that seat right now, but I mean, it looks as if though the people in that area are not satisfied with what's going on either. So your guess is as good as mine as to where the cookie will crumble. But people, tomorrow when we get together, I mean, the phone lines are working now. 222-1116, 222-1116, and 222-1198. So if you want to put Mr. Boynes on the spot, tomorrow will be a good day for you to start. So get your fingers ready. The phones are working. 222-1116 and 222-1198. We want to thank Mr. Boynes for being here today. We look forward to him being here tomorrow. And as usual, to all of you outside there, stick and stay, because this is the only station that you can listen to that will bring you the facts. You may not agree with it, but then sometimes the truth really offends, and a lot of people run away from the truth. So don't run away from the truth. If the party leadership needs changing, that's a choice you have to make. If the party leadership is satisfactory, because you could sit down on a paper and say, I agree, I agree, I agree, I agree. If you just want to be a yes person, well, that's your democratic right also. Don't forget that we have launched our petition for referendum. It's something that we will be speaking to Mr. Boynes a little later on. I would want him to get all the internal politics out of the way first before I drop that bombshell on him. But we definitely want to look at that situation. And we hope that you are going to participate in asking him some very difficult questions, because when he becomes the leader of the PNM, boy, does he have a job on his hands.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Until tomorrow.
Thank you for having me, Robert.
My pleasure.